Good morning. It is Wednesday. It is the 1st of November. And it's time to go to work. It's definitely apparent that the weather has changed. It's gotten bloody cold this morning. But I'm only a couple of weeks away from going to Disney, so I will be nice and warm then. Now, today, I'm not going to be continuing with the KIFs series. As I've said, those videos take a little bit more time because obviously there's a lot of specific kind of bits that are hard to hold all of them in your head while driving. Plus, it's good to have the actual imagery around, which I don't normally do for the driving videos. So I may do one of those this evening after I've gotten home from work, time permitting. But in the meantime, I still want to have a chat with you this morning. And I think what I want to chat about is some issues that my group is running into and how I think my Changeling game can fix some of those. Now, we're a group that plays on Roll20. For anyone not familiar with Roll20, I highly recommend it. It's a great way of gaming with people who are not able to actually get to your house. If you either have issues with your living conditions, which means that it's not good for having a bunch of people over at any given time, or if you just live in an area where there aren't that many people around that want to game, Roll20 is a great way to reach out to the wider world and find a group that you can still take part in. And with that said, with our group, most of us have been together nearly 2 years now. We've got a couple that added in about a year ago, and we have Skype chats running. Well, we have a Skype conversation going basically 24/7, because we actually hang out with each other separate from game night as well. Talk about job interviews and, well, we talk about all kinds of bizarre things, really. So that's not really the point of what I'm getting at. But the problem that's come up, first off, we all live in different time zones all over the world. We have Americans, including like proper Americans and Yankee Americans. We have an Australian, we have a couple from way up in the cold parts of the world. Vikings, basically. They'll love it if I say, Vikings. So, we have different time zones already. That means that some of us are getting up in the morning to play the game. One of us quite early in the morning to play the game. Some of us are playing the game as we come home from work on an evening. And for some, it's kind of somewhere in between. Now, as life happens, people have jobs that change, have schedules that change, have other events that go on, and sometimes game time becomes more problematic. People are having to turn up late to games or having to miss the occasional game. It's not anything that is unique to our group. I mean, if you have a look at Critical Role and the issues that they had with Ashley, with being able to be there sometimes, being away sometimes, Skyping in sometimes, time is always the most critical element of being able to involve yourself in a game. And That's becoming a bigger issue. We've got one player who basically is going to be an hour late for every session. In fact, he has been being an hour late for the session during the mage game as well, which has been slightly awkward in some situations. We've also got another player who's going to be in a similar situation starting within a few weeks. So, how is the Changeling game going to fix this? How is the Changeling game going to be better at dealing with this than the Mage game? Well, please understand that I'm not saying that Changeling is better at dealing with players coming in and out than Mage. Not at all. Mage could be run in exactly the same way I'm going to describe here and solve this problem the same way. But, and this is a lack of foresight on my part, I didn't set up the current Mage campaign in that way. So, the Changeling game will be set up to account for this. Now, what does that mean? Well, Changelings are all about balance. You have to balance your mundane, banal life with the dreaming. I've said in a couple videos before, what that means is that there are actually going to be points where the Changelings need to say, you know, I'm late for work, I've already missed 3 days this week, if I don't get there, I'm going to get fired and I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. Now, obviously, we're not going to spend tons of session time role-playing your character going to work. I'm not that cruel. But what it means is that if we do not finish a session in the middle of a scene, for example, if we are able to wrap the current scene, then the likelihood is that we will wrap a scene and the next week we will pick up 3 or 4 days later. Your character has been going to work, has been living their normal life, has been taking care of all of the mundane stuff that they needed to do as normal. Right. So what that means is when we come back into the game 4 days later, for example, and you're all meeting up at the diner, one of you is late or calls and says, you know, I'm going to be a couple hours, guys. I'm, just finishing up at work now. This secondary life, this mundane life, can be used to reflect mundane life. It means that as long as we did not finish the game in the middle of a dramatic moment, as long as we were able to get to a break point, it doesn't matter that a player is a bit late, or even if that a player misses a session. Their character calls up and says, hey guys, I've got to run a double shift today. I'm going to be dog tired. So, can you guys run this without me? And for that session, as it passes, that character's working and sleeping. It makes sense within the bounds of the story. And then the next session, they're finished and they show up and they've rested and they're good to go. Mage can do the same thing. Especially if you're running Tradition Mage, you can run the game in such a way that your characters have to go to work, have to have a job, have to keep a pretense of a normal life. Not all mages sequester themselves with a chantry and spend all of their time on magey things. Some mages keep their cover story, as it were, their secret identity, their normal life that doesn't know about the fact that they're a mage. So, there we are. The next game will have a focus on maintaining the characters' normal lives, as well as a focus on their changeling adventures, which will mean that we're able to account for players being late or missing. If you've got any other thoughts or comments on the topic, by all means post them below. Like and subscribe if I haven't bored you to death. If I have bored you to death, please comment below so I know, so I can do something about it, or probably not. I'm pretty set in my ways, but I'd at least be interested to know. And we might have another Kith video coming tonight, and either way, I'll be back with you tomorrow with something to discuss. Have a great day. I'll see you later.